Yes?
It was interesting because I just want to say I'm a student in orientation to become a career counselor, and they all talk about career skill and ability. Like there is a woman there saying, I love working with public or thing like that. And it's also kind of sad because they have a lot of experience and for example, dealing with art clients or dealing with money or thing like that. And they will never be able to say it to get a real job because it's not well to say like, I was in the street.
I would jump in.
Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody else wants to. What is your reaction to his comments? Go ahead.
Well, maybe that, I mean, they're also doing a job, right? And it's a job that we consider not valuable, but obviously they've acquired skills and they developed abilities and yeah.
Anybody else want to respond to? Because I think you've said in some ways you represented a standard opinion that we may be challenging. Other comments?
I mean, that's why we really made the work too. I mean, because the center that we were working with had all these skill-based teaching programs without recognizing that the people taking them had tons of skills and did jobs and were really accomplished, and understanding like just having some sort of employment makes them a whole person doesn't, I don't like that idea of needing a job to therefore belong to society as a whole, and recognizing that they all have jobs, they all are working in different ways, and having that conversation as well. And if you as a career counselor, if you get a resume that says, I spent 8 years as a successful drug dealer, you should say, great, you can sell TVs, you can sell sofas, that's perfect, I should hire you. I think that would be amazing if that could happen. So if you meet a drug dealer who needs career, send the resumes my way. Hire anybody. Successful, yeah, the ones who are unsuccessful.
Maybe career change.
Yeah, they might have to actually sell cars.
Me, I went in the other side. For me, for each job, that is a part of prostitution somewhere. But prostitution at all is not a job. For me, it's not a job. It's a consequence of something. It's something. I don't think it's something you really choose as a woman to become a prostitute.
I've had many conversations.
It's what I think.
I've had many conversations with sex workers who disagree with me, who have had many other jobs and have chosen sex work as their job because this is what they...
Because it's payant.
I think there's
Because it's well paid.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you, if you had a job choice, wouldn't you choose the one that's well paid?
They don't study to do that.
I mean, but I didn't study to become an artist, so I don't know, like all these sort of things, these ways of saying how jobs are supposed to be defined, you can battle back against and say, there are some people...
10%.
There's some people that find sex work a valuable profession, and they do it because this is what they want to do.
They do it without drugs?
Yes.
Okay, because it's 10%.
Well,
90% is the contrary.
I mean, we can't put percentages on it because we've never done the data.
I look at film on that, I read on that. And so what they say it's 90% of the women who's doing prostitution, they do it because they have violation or they have been abused as a child or something like that.
But
I mean, we're not having that conversation. We don't have the data in front of us. So, I don't really want to go in that direction.
because it seems like a judgment about what they're doing.
It's not a judgment. It's a woman who worked with them for a long time who say that. And
That's a judgment.
Yeah.
It's not a judgment. It's comment on dit ça? A constant.
Yeah.
Could I maybe jump
Constitution.
It's you might go through actually, and it wouldn't change the purpose of the trip. I think we're all doing something in life for some reasons that are out of our control. Maybe the reasons why they are doing these things are all focused on abuse as a child and all that, but let's say that lack of confidence would pit someone into a job and he doesn't control the reasons why he's there because he lacks confidence. So, but this doesn't change the fact that when they say you have to do your job this way and not this way, that everybody would agree with them in saying yes, that's the way you should do it, and that's how it's provocative, and I understand why there's a provocation here. It seems to be their fatum, they're not passive. Actually, what it shows is that they're not passive in front of their destiny, and at some point they might be more passive if they didn't have this streetwise skills they need to in order to get along with their lives. So I think that's a point of dialogue. That's how you can dialogue with those people. You know, I mean, I'm not a worker. I don't work. I don't. What?
Prostitution is different. Someone on the prostitution.
I wanted to catch up on that when you were saying how, if someday a drug dealer was being able to assess its abilities and competences and in order to, for instance, getting another kind of job and having recognition for that. I was interested by that comment, and I was wondering, it made me want to think, okay, so where is the border? Why isn't it possible right now? Or
For them to cross over.
yeah, through the recognition of their actual competences.
Well, the particular video that we're talking about is the drug dealer was there,
Right.
and there was a critical thing in that where she said, yeah, my family is selling, and that I am a salesperson. And like in some ways that's a step to say, for her to recognize. And I think in each of them, there was a point where they valued their skills with no judgment. So she started out a little embarrassed, but that was her skill. And then as she continued, it was like, yes, I do have that skill. I don't know where it'll take her, but that's in some ways wasn't what we were asking at all. We were simply asking, and the result was this understanding. And I'd say for most of them that happened, that transition where they were like, yeah, I'm good at this, and I know how to get alcohol when I have no money. And I have these skills that within some context, if only it's hers, they're valued. And that became really important for us. And that was one of our aims, was that, they were teaching us something, because they are often not valued in terms of those skills.
I was wondering, what would be the difference between, say, this person and someone who has great abilities, competencies, selling hedge funds, for instance?
Well,
I find
we have a mayor that...
Look at our mayor.
We want her for mayor.
The only limit I could sense was perhaps an ethical limit in the product.
Meaning the hedge fund is the ethical problem.
And in certain instances, it's actually integrated in society and accepted. In others, it blocks. So,
And she was very conscious of the ethics. She wanted to be an ethical salesperson of selling drugs, being fair to the people, and inadvertently.
And being kind. She was like the kindest. I mean, she would, if you didn't have the money, she'd still give you something to get high on.
yeah.
If you went to the hedge fund manager and said, I don't have the money for your hedge fund, he'd be like, go away.
Je vais la dire en français, puis après, donc pas pratiquer. Je vais dire ma question en français, puis après je la dirai en anglais. Pour ceux qui ne comprennent pas l'anglais, je sais qu'il y en a ici. C'est une question à propos de l'œuvre d'art. Je ramène un peu le sujet sur ça. Disons que d'un premier abord, ça ressemble à un documentaire, une approche du documentaire. Puis je me demandais, dans votre travail, il y a eu beaucoup de... Vous avez évacué beaucoup d'éléments, sûrement vous devez avoir beaucoup d'autres images, bandes son et tout, que vous pourriez utiliser. Vous avez fait un choix. Et je me demandais en regardant à quel moment votre travail, comment ça a pris forme comme œuvre d'art dans la construction. Par exemple, pour l'idée de 10 manières de survivre, ça a dû venir en processus, en le faisant. Au début, c'était plutôt d'aller créer un lien avec les gens, mais vous ne deviez pas savoir. Alors, bon, je vais le répéter en anglais. So I can practice. It seems to me that when you started, it was more like maybe not in your mind, but in the way you work with it was more like a documentary approach. And you must have lots of material that you didn't use, that you had to make a choice of what you would keep and what you would let go. And here I'm talking more about the artwork. So at what point did the work became an artwork and it took that avenue? I'm thinking of the 10 lessons, which is really an aesthetic shock. It works. I mean, it's an artistic work. But at one point, when did it and how? And did it came after the whole work was done, or did it come while you were doing it? And at one point, said, "Oh yes, that's."
I don't. Myself and I think Linda as well, we don't think of ourselves as documentary makers at all. The project always started as this artistic project. And we started with wanting to ask women to teach us things. And of course the title and the way it's presented all came after, and even like down to the typeface and calling them lesson number 1, lesson number 2. We were back and forth about if we're going to call them numerically lessons or we're going to put their names on it. So all that was the artistic decisions that we were making. But I never want to call this a documentary.
Well, that's not what I said. I said you're using the tools.
Using the tools of sure. I think we're using the tools of documentary. I mean, like static cameras and conversation.
And no planning before, like that's one.
Yeah, no plan. I mean, the amount of stuff that we tossed away is very little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did not edit. Like we had actually 13 conversations. 3 of them we decided not to use. And then almost every conversation we took out the personal. We tried to take out if they talked about their sisters or their, or anything that was personal and tried to just get it to the skill. So ultimately there's probably on the cutting room floor like 40 minutes.
Very little.
Yeah.
In some cases, there's no editing.
Really?
Yeah.
Because we asked the question, they had often, so there was a process. So they came prepared, we talked to them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe we should talk about that because, so we went to the center, we actually talked to the staff because the earlier project I'd done at the same center. So I had been there for hours, days, literally, doing this one. So they knew me well. So I went and talked to them about this. And it might be interesting so we asked them what their questions were because we want to know what the questions are. So it's really helpful for you to ask questions. So we asked the staff, and their question was, are you reinforcing negative behavior? Which is a very valid question. We sort of thought about that, and they thought about it, and then they decided that doing this didn't change behavior. It was about valuing the people. So then they said, yes, we think this is a good project. So then we Yeah, but they, like, the staff is amazing, very thoughtful, know everybody really well, so they sort of thought through. And then so then we came at lunch, because they serve lunch to everybody every day. And we did a presentation and talked about what we were going to do. And different people came forward and said, I have a skill. They also talk to each other, because this is a community. This is not and I think this is one of the biggest thing that I learned that I didn't know. Like, the people in the street know everybody. They know each other, so they knew. And one of the rules we had was that each person had to have a different skill. And so the first person chose the self-protection, because that's an issue on the street. And so then she
wanted to beat me up.
Yes, she was very excited about pushing Peter around.
Beat me up.
Yeah, so that's in that one. It's the woman right there.
Yeah.
And
Wanted
then
to push me around.
the other skill that they all had was how to do the fake fuck. So the next person chose that. And then they talked to each other, and they sort of, because they also knew other skills. The staff also sort of helped them, talk about which is interesting, because they also knew their skills and what a skill meant there.